What if I told you that the man who made millions laugh every Thursday night was dying inside, fighting a battle so fierce that he would later say he remembered almost nothing from 3 entire years of filming the biggest sitcom in television history? Matthew Perry's story is not the one you think you know. October 28, 2023. The world woke up to devastating news. Matthew Perry, beloved Chandler Bing from Friends, was found dead in his hot tub at age 54. But this is not a story about an ending. This is a story about a man who spent decades wearing a mask so perfect that even his closest friends had no idea how close to death he came, not once, but dozens of times. Picture this. You are 25 years old and suddenly you are part of the most successful television show on the planet. Your face is on magazine covers, your catchphrases are quoted by strangers, and you have more money than you ever dreamed of. This should be the happiest time of your life. For Matthew Perry, it became the beginning of his personal hell. What most people do not realize is that Perry's addiction began long before Friends made him famous. At 24, he was already dependent on alcohol. But fame amplified everything. The pressure to be funny, to be perfect, to never let anyone down, became suffocating. He started taking painkillers after a jet ski accident, and what began as legitimate pain management quickly spiraled into something much darker. Here is where the story becomes truly heartbreaking. During the height of Friends' success, from seasons 3 to 6, Perry was consuming 55 Vicodin pills a day. 55. Let that number sink in. He was so heavily medicated that he has no memory of filming entire seasons of the show that defined his career. The man who brought such joy to millions was barely conscious for his own life. But what happened next was truly shocking. His castmates, the people he worked with every single day, had no idea how bad things had gotten. Perry became a master of deception, hiding his addiction so well that Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, David Schwimmer, and Matt LeBlanc thought he was just going through a rough patch. He would show up to set, deliver his lines flawlessly, make everyone laugh, and then disappear into his dressing room to count pills and plan his next dose. The turning point came in 2000 when Perry's colon burst due to opioid overuse. He spent 2 weeks in a coma, and doctors gave him a 2% chance of survival. 2%. As he lay unconscious fighting for his life, Friends episodes were airing around the world, and fans had no idea their beloved Chandler was dying in a hospital bed. When Perry woke up, he had a colostomy bag that he would need for 9 months. This was his rock-bottom moment, but it was also his awakening. He realized that his addiction was not just destroying his life, it was robbing him of the very experiences he had worked so hard to achieve. He was living his dream while being completely absent from it. And this is where everything changed. Perry made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He was going to get sober, and he was going to help others do the same. But recovery is not a straight line, and Perry's journey was filled with relapses, setbacks, and moments of despair that would have broken most people. You have not heard the most surprising part yet. After getting sober, Perry did something extraordinary. He bought a Malibu mansion and converted it into a sober living facility for men struggling with addiction. He spent millions of his own money, not for profit, but because he understood the desperation of addiction in a way that few people could. He had been to the edge of death and back, and he wanted to throw a lifeline to others who were drowning in the same darkness. Perry often said that he wanted to be remembered not for Chandler Bing, but for helping people get sober. He sponsored countless individuals, answered phone calls at all hours from people in crisis, and used his platform to speak openly about addiction when most celebrities kept such struggles private. He turned his pain into purpose, his struggle into service. In his memoir, published just a year before his death, Perry wrote with brutal honesty about his addiction. He revealed that he had been to rehab 15 times, had spent over $9 million trying to get sober, and had come close to death multiple times. But he also wrote about hope, about the possibility of recovery, and about the importance of asking for help. The cruel irony of Perry's story is that just when he seemed to have found peace, just when he was using his experience to help others and had been sober for long stretches, addiction claimed him anyway. His death was ruled accidental, caused by the acute effects of ketamine, a drug he had been using as part of supervised therapy for depression. But here is what makes Matthew Perry's story truly powerful. Even in death, he continues to save lives. His honesty about addiction has inspired countless people to seek help. His willingness to be vulnerable, to show that even someone with fame, money, and success can struggle with addiction, has broken down barriers and reduced stigma. Matthew Perry spent his life making people laugh, but his greatest gift to the world was his willingness to share his pain. He showed us that addiction does not discriminate, that it can affect anyone, and that recovery is always possible, even when it feels impossible. His story reminds us that behind every smile, there might be a struggle we cannot see, and that sometimes the funniest people are fighting the hardest battles. The man who asked, "Could I be any more vulnerable?" In sharing his story has left us with a powerful legacy, that it is okay to not be okay, that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness, and that even in our darkest moments, we can choose to help others find their way to the light.